Okay, we're moving over to another saw stop table saw. Fortunately, here at University of Wisconsin-Platteville, we have 3 of these. 2 of them are identical, just like the one that I just demonstrated on, but we have one that's set up all the time with a dado blade. A dado blade is nothing more than a gang of saw blades. If you notice here, I've got actually 3 saw blades. I have 2 regular saw blades on the outside. They're sharpened just a little bit different than a regular one, but so you do have an inner and an outer. But between those saw blades, we have this saw blade. It's just called a chipper. It's only got 2 teeth. That's all it needs to do to get the job done. But the beauty of this is now I can set that saw curve to whatever width I want to cut the groove. And each one of these, even though the tooth is real wide, only cuts 1/8 of an inch wide. So you figure I've got 3 saw blades here. It's going to cut 3/8 of an inch wide. But if you need to cut something at a little bit different width, you can always add shims between the saw blades. Here is a shim that's about 1/16 of an inch thick. We have them that will cut anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20, up to 60 thousandths of an inch thick. So you can set that groove at exactly the width you want, so you can cut it exactly the width you want in one cut. You'll notice I don't have a guard or a riving knife. A riving knife is not going to do any good at all on this because I'm cutting such a wide curve. So we don't worry about that at all. I just put my throat plate back into place. And this is just to hold down the front of the throat plate. Problem with this is we can set this dado blade to cut 13/16 of an inch wide. That's why this groove is so wide in here. What you have to keep in mind is thinner pieces that may drop into this groove and get jammed between the throat plate and the saw blade, again causing a kickback, which isn't real good. So you always have to plan for stuff like that. With this, we can cut a dado, a rabbet, or a groove. A dado is just a sideless groove on the end of a board. A rabbet is a sideless groove on the side of a board. And a groove is a groove with both sides intact. It's all the same thing, it's just different terminology, but it works exactly the same. But now I can do this all in one cut. Now if I'm using this miter gauge, again, this sacrificial fence is going to be very beneficial, so I can guide this accurately through that saw blade or dado blade without any problems. If I use this without a fence, there's a chance that it will wobble as it goes through, won't get an accurate cut, it's harder to control. So I always recommend this. But there's another device too. And this is called a miter sled. And with this, it works exactly the same. It's just that now we have something that's more safe to use, because with this piece of plexiglass on top, I can't get my fingers down into there. So a lot less chance I'm going to get hurt. And with a big, wide, tall fence, I've got great control over that. Plus, when I get all the way through the cut on the front, as a guard that covers the saw blade, so it just makes it much, much safer to use. So first of all, we're going to try a rabbet. Again, sacrificial fences are real handy. This is a sacrificial fence. It's just a piece of scrap board that we have against here. And right now it doesn't have any grooves in it. But the beauty of this is I have a saw blade that's 3/8 of an inch wide, but I only want to cut a groove or a rabbet that's just under 3/8 of an inch wide. but I need clearance for the saw blade. Real simple to do. I drop the saw blade down below the table, and I set this wherever I want. I turn the saw on, and I bring the dado blade up to the right height. So now it has created its own zero clearance and everything is in place. I am ready to do a rabbet. So with that, I'm going to grab my push stick. Push sticks are always real handy to have, and I'm going to do a rabbet. And that is a rabbet. I can set it at whatever depth I want, whatever height I want, no problem at all. Now, to do a dado on the end, using the push stick, again, I've got a long piece of wood here, so it's going to move around on me. Not real safe to do. So I grab my miter gauge with a long sacrificial fence, and now I can do a dado on the end of this board. Perfect cut. Next, to do a groove, I simply move the fence to wherever I want the groove. I set the width of the dado blade, I set the height, and I just simply cut a groove. And there I have exactly what I want, right in the right place. It's all done in one cut, whereas if I was just using a standard saw blade, I would have to take successive cuts to get that done, and it's just perfect. So with that, I'm going to demonstrate our miter sled. And I have to compensate for the thickness of the bed on the miter sled. And I set my height and I line up the cut where I want it to be. And there I've got another dado. Very simple, very effective. That's what this saw is all about.